Thanks for tuning in today to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. One of the things that we saw in 2017 was improved weed control when we added residuals to the program. Whether it was getting good residuals early, that was great, but when we did residuals early plus the post-emerge, that's where we really saw a difference. We're going to talk about some of those post-emerge residuals, group 15 specifically, and what the differences are with some of the products.
One of the most important things you have to know on your farm in every one of your fields is cation exchange capacity, or CEC for short. We'll talk about why you've got to know that number today.
It's also important to understand what our weed of the week is and how to get it under control. We'll discuss that later in the show, but first, here's our Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
Today in our Farm Basics time, we're going to talk a little about riparian areas. What are they and why are they important for everyone?
In agriculture, one of the cool things is we get to work with the environment every day. We get to work with soils, we get to work with water, and it's really important for the future of agriculture and for everybody else around us that we do a good job managing the environment. So one of the jobs of farmers is to protect the water sources around them, like rivers and streams, for example. So riparian areas are really designed to do just that.
So specifically what we're looking at here is these are areas around a lake, a river, or a stream that are going to have grass and other plant species, maybe bushes, trees, shrubs, that type of thing. The whole point is two things. Number one, it's to catch any water that's coming off of fields and hopefully hold that water just briefly and maybe take some of the contaminants out of it. And then the other purpose of it is to catch any soil that's moving across or coming off of a field as well. So the point is it simply helps prevent any contaminants coming from anywhere else to getting into that lake, river, or stream.
All right, they really serve another purpose though too. And when you think about wildlife, where do wildlife like to be? Well, they'd like some protection, they'd like some shelter from trees and bushes and this type of thing, tall grass, but they'd also like to be right by the water source. So when you put riparian areas out there, guess where the wildlife tend to congregate? Right in those riparian areas. So it serves a couple of purposes. One, prevents anything getting out of fields and into rivers, mainly soil in my opinion, but also it gives a good home for wildlife.
All right, so that kind of defeats the purpose of clean water. When you have a whole bunch of wildlife that's going to end up in your water, it's not maybe as clean. But still, when we talk about any contaminants coming off any fields, yes, it's a good thing to have those riparian areas.
One thing it's good not to have is our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
Avoid the V-shaped pattern of injury caused by chemical buildup in your booms. The Express End Cap from Hypro eliminates the dead ends that lead to herbicide buildup and provides easy access to your booms, giving a complete flush between applications. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Let's face it, Joe. Some of these guys aren't easy to play. Biologicals are expensive. Humates and plant growth regulators are messy.
Yeah, but AgroLiquid has 4 new players that have really eliminated those problems. The Primer Go line has helped their team realize the benefits.
Wait, so season-long nutrition and optimized yields while creating a biologically active soil?
That's right. Primer Go line is a fantastic addition to AgroLiquid's stellar team.
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seed bed in the industry and target a nickel-size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high-efficiency farming, there's one name to count on, Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
Our Morton is so much more to us than just a building. It's a place where we spend time with friends. It's a place where we hold family gatherings. it's become very important to us.
Morton Buildings. For work. For life. For generations. Contact us now during our annual sales event to save on your next building.
Smart farming is playing hockey with my son.
All right, sweetie, you excited to go? Yeah. Smart farming is going on more family vacations.
Smart farming is getting some much needed rest.
Smart farming is spending more time doing what you love. Make it happen with Farm Command.
One of the most important herbicide groups, or mode of actions basically, that we want to talk about is group 15. So these group 15 herbicides can be used in corn and in soybeans. That's our topic for today.
Well, they can even be used in wheat, Brian, now with Zidua being labeled there. But when you think about group 15s, I guess this is the place I want to start, is just which products are we talking about? We're talking about Outlook, Dual, Warrant, and Zidua primarily. So we've got some products that, hey, if you're a corn farmer, you say, yep, I recognize all those names. If you're a soybean farmer, you say, hey, I recognize all those names, and even wheat with the Zidua. So these are products that are getting used quite a bit in multiple crops.
All right, now Darren, you left out Harness and Surpass. Those are pre-emerge herbicides that can be used early post as well in corn. You're not going to use those early post in soybeans, and I assume that's probably why you left that out, because when we do look at Warrant, Outlook, Dual, Zidua, those can be used in corn or soybeans.
So why would you use these group 15s? First of all, we get good residual control of annual grasses. And that's where the group 15 has been used for a long, long time, especially in corn, to try to control a lot of the grasses, foxtail species specifically, but they also control some other grasses as well. Now that we see Zidua going into wheat, you can think of the other grasses that may be present there. We're getting a lot of the annual grasses under control with group 15s. However, they become more important in recent years because they also have some pretty good broadleaf activity on things like lamb's quarters, pigweed, and other small-seeded broadleaves.
Okay, when we talk about the broadleaf activity out of the group 15s, there are a lot of people today that they're all sold on this stuff. I'm still not. These products are not great products on broadleaves. They're okay. They're certainly a lot better than nothing. Where we really see the fit with these products in soybeans is early post. So we want you to use 3 pre's. Okay, that'll give you great control, not a lot of money. That's the way to go. But then you can go early post and throw in one of these group 15s. Just understand, they have absolutely zero contact activity. They are not going to kill a weed that's up. All they give you is residual control. But the nice thing about using them early post is now you're probably a month, month and a half later from when you used your pre. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, had you used that pre, well, it would run out of steam a lot earlier. When you use it early post, now it's going to last longer into the summer until you get that crop canopy. With a crop like soybeans, it doesn't reach crop canopy very often until we get into July. So you need residual control all the way till then. It's hard to do unless you use one of these group 15s early post.
We like to use them in your first post-emerge pass. That way you've got some time to get some moisture out there and get them going. And we also like to do it before you start to see your initial pre-emerge herbicides break. So if you still have good weed control, now's the time to get back out there and get that group 15 to extend that residual. So we overlap the residual a little bit. The question though is, wow, we've detailed quite a few different group 15 products. What's the difference between these products?
The biggest difference that we've seen is when you look at Harness, Surpass, and Warrant, they're all acetochlor. Well, acetochlor appears to us to work with a lot less moisture, but it doesn't last as long. It may move through the soil a little more. It's not going to last as long in heavy rain. It's not going to last as long during the season. But in dry country where we farm, it's fine. It lasts plenty long enough because we are dry. Well, if let's say you have all kinds of rain, what we have seen so far out of Zidua is that seems to hold longer. seems to take a little more moisture to get activated, but it does seem to hold a lot longer in heavy rain conditions. So in the western corn belt, we like Harness and Surpass in corn, we like Warrant in soybeans. If you go to the eastern corn belt, that's really where we would prefer Zidua. The one other thing that I would say is the acetochlor is definitely the best on the small-seeded broadleaves. Dual would definitely be the worst. Okay, and again, they're all terrible in my opinion, but they're way better than nothing. You're probably still talking 60, maybe even as much as 80% control in the small-seeded broadleaves when you use the full rate. So again, it is better than nothing, but don't be counting on these to be miracle products.
I just love working with Brian because everything is terrible. Either it's nearly 100% control or it's just terrible because it let one weed get through. Hey, these are much better options than anything else that we've got. So we really like the Group 15, so we want to protect them. When we look at corn programs, we're typically using Group 15s as a pre-emerge herbicide, or maybe you're going to be out there either well in advance of planting or right after planting, somewhere in that time window. In soybeans, we really like to save them for post-emerge. So how do you do that in a corn and soybean rotation and not run the risk of losing these Group 15s to resistance from weeds? Well, the big thing that you want to do is use multiple modes of action. So if you're using it as a pre-emerge, a Group 15 pre-emerge in corn, that's fine. But if you're coming back with Roundup or Liberty or one of these products that will clean up any escaped grasses, great. Now we've got at least a couple different modes of action out there, and many of the Group 15s are being tank mixed or pre-mixed, I should say, with HPPDs and other modes of action. That's going to help preserve that Group 15 in corn. In soybeans, I really don't want to see you using Group 15 down and then Group 15 over the top. I know in some cases that's being done. Even so, even if that is being done and we don't have a crop safety issue with too much Group 15 out there for soybeans, we want to make sure we're using lots of other modes of action there so we don't run the risk of resistance.
And the last piece of good news I have for you today is almost all the Group 15s continue to come down in price every year. We look for that trend to continue in 2018.
These Group 15s are nice for a lot of weeds, but they are not going to control our Weed of the Week. We'll show you what will coming up later in the show.
This agro liquid line is something special. A lot of really impressive playmakers. Take a look at Sure K. This guy is an enigma.
But wrap your head around the exceptionally high plant response when compared to conventional potassium sources, the research-proven plant availability, plus flexible application options and mixing capabilities.
Really stellar performance stats. Sure K is a true standout, and that's a winning goal on any field.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Grow your incentives, not weeds. Earn an additional $6 per acre in cash back when you apply XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology on your Roundup Ready 2 Xtend soybeans, along with endorsed herbicides from Roundup Ready Plus Crop Management Solutions. Now you have the right tools to manage weeds and your bottom line. Visit growyouриncentives.com to see your total incentives opportunity.
We raise corn, beans, and then about 7,500 head of hogs a year. About 800 acres of beans this year. All 800 are Liberty Link this year. Our biggest weed pressure is definitely the water hemp. That's why we switched to Liberty Link. We were Roundup Ready, and we had some resistance. I got sprayed 3 times one year that didn't even come close to killing them. So the next year we switched to Liberty Link, thinking we'd switch back and forth every year, and Liberty Link performed so well we never switched back. We have a test plot that had Roundup and Liberty Link right next to each other, and the Liberty Link out-yielded it the past 5 years. It's very important to have good weed control. For one, it just looks better to look at a nice clean field, but yield-wise it's also very important.
The Liberty Link system has a 2+ bushel per acre yield advantage over Asgrow Roundup Ready to Xtend soybeans. More at libertylinkadvantage.bayer.us. Always read and follow label instructions.
An important thing to know about your soils is the cation exchange capacity of the soil? We're going to talk about that today.
Well, what is cation exchange capacity? It's the holding capacity of your soil. It's basically a measurement of the type of clay in your soil, the amount of clay in your soil, and the amount of organic matter. The higher the number, the more your soil can hold of everything, whether that's chemical, water, fertilizer, you name it.
All right, so let's talk about this cation exchange capacity, because you may say, well, if I've got a bigger number and I can hold more nutrients out there, that's got to be a good thing, right? Well, guess what? Guess where the world record soybeans have been grown? Guess where the world record corn has been grown? In low cation exchange capacity soils. Now, I'm not saying that the ideal cation exchange capacity for you is 5 to 10. That's pretty light sandy soil in most cases. No, that may not be the ideal for you, but it can be managed well and still produce high yielding crops.
Okay, so here's the number one reason why you have to know your cation exchange capacity on every field you've got. It's really nitrogen. How much nitrogen can you apply to your soil at any one time? When I've asked farmers that question over the years, I'll get responses along these lines. Well, I have heavy soil, so I can put quite a bit out there. Well, how much is that exactly? Well, I don't know, quite a bit. I'm sure I'm fine. Okay, well, when you have that kind of response, then that really makes me question, are we overdoing it or not? Okay, what's the biggest issue that we've got in the United States today as farmers? And a lot of people say, oh, it's crop prices or it's weed resistance. No, I don't think so. I think the biggest issue we have as farmers is our relationship with non-farmers. And if non-farmers see us over-applying nitrogen so much so that it ends up in the water, now we've got a real problem. And guess what you and I are going to have as farmers? We're going to have a lot more regulation going forward. I don't want that, and I assume you don't want that either. So here's a real simple measurement that you can use. Cation exchange capacity. Get that on your soil test. Then multiply that number times 10. That'll tell you the rough holding capacity of your soil. Is that going to be exact? No, it's not. But that will at least give you a rough idea. It'll get you relatively close. A lot better than saying, oh, I have heavy ground or I have light ground. Okay? So let's just say, for example, your cation exchange capacity is 16. Well, 16 times 10 is 160. Let's say you're going for 250 bushel corn and you want to put 250 pounds of nitrogen out there. Can you do it in one shot? Not a chance. Okay, no way your soil is going to hold all that. So what we would suggest is look at how much nitrogen's already in your soil, subtract that off of your 160 number. Let's say you had 40 already sitting in the soil. Subtract that off 160, that leaves 120. The most you should apply to your soil is 120 pounds. That's it. Okay, and even that is probably pushing it a little bit. So we just want you to know the cation exchange capacity and then spoon feed your nitrogen so we don't end up with these water quality concerns.
Now that may lead you to be thinking, I need to increase my cation exchange capacity in my soil. The way you can do it is by building organic matter levels. We've talked about this in the past. You can reduce tillage, plant crops with more roots, utilize manure and compost. Those types of steps, those can help you build organic matter levels over time, but it certainly doesn't happen overnight.
All right, so in lieu of you building your organic matter and doing it significantly here over the next few years, let's just talk about you working with the soil you've got today. Let's say you do have lighter soil. Let's say it's an 8 CEC. You've already got 20 pounds sitting in that soil, so you can only apply 60 pounds. And you go, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to apply nitrogen 4 times during the growing season to get to my 250 bushel level of nitrogen. In other words, getting 250 pounds out there. Yes, that's what we're going to suggest you do. And let's take it a step further and say, I want you to use a nitrogen stabilizer along with that to further protect your nitrogen. We don't want nitrogen loss, and neither do you. Not only is it not a good thing for the environment, but it's lost dollars. Just look at it from a dollars and cents perspective. You don't want to lose your nitrogen. That's why you have to know your cation exchange capacity, and you have to follow through on all this.
Let's take the opposite side of the spectrum here, Brian. Let's go to the really high CECs. On Ag PhD Radio, we recently talked to a farmer north of the border up in Canada. He had a CEC of around 40. What are some things in a high CEC soil that you'll need to do for management?
Well, first of all, you've got to understand that's got tremendous water holding capacity. In fact, too much water holding capacity. In most cases, we see really poor drainage when that cation exchange capacity is upwards of 40. So you're probably going to need to add tile. It's very likely your calcium levels are low, which seems strange, but if you've got tremendously high magnesium levels, a lot of times that leads to higher CEC levels. So what that tells me is we've got to get more calcium in the soil. We've got to get more porosity in the soil. When you do that, you might actually find your cation exchange capacity starting to come down. And if nothing else, you are going to see just better drainage, better root growth, more oxygen in that soil. That's going to help a lot. So yes, that's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I'm not worried about nitrogen leaching. Okay, we're not going to have any environmental issues in a 40 CEC soil, no way. What we're going to have for nitrogen loss there would probably be denitrification. So in other words, your nitrogen gets in the ground, there's all kinds of water sitting there with all that magnesium and everything and the high CEC, so then you're subject to risk of loss for nitrogen that way. Now, again, that's not going to hurt anybody, but still, we don't want to have nitrogen loss any possible way.
Our topic for today has been cation exchange capacity. It is a measurement of the holding capacity of your soil, its ability to hold nutrients and hold water. Farmers with high cation exchange capacities and with low cation exchange capacities can be very successful, but it does require management on either end. One other thing that requires a little management is our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Dow AgroSciences. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough, but we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Our weed of the week is curlycup gumweed. Oh, this is a fun one, Brian, because we normally see this in pasture type areas, rangeland type areas. Don't normally see it out into our crop fields. So generally what we're talking about there is how do we kill it without killing the grass?
Yeah, and there are some products that you can use. Chaparral, Graze on Next would be products that are okay. Darren, what do you think though about, let's say the guy says, no, I don't want to use those longer term residual products or anything. I just want to go use some 2,4-D or dicamba because I may turn that into crop ground in a few years.
Well, they aren't the best products for you, and a lot of times you'll see guys add some oil to them to try to get them to stick a little bit better on these woody type species. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather try and kill those weeds. So maybe you just want to spot spray and hit just right on those weeds if you can. But if it's a thick infestation of gumweed, I'd rather get it knocked out once and for all, and it may tie you up into pasture for a few years.
Okay, so how about Tordon? That's the other one a lot of times I think of when I think about woody species. How do you feel about Tordon on gumweed?
Absolutely. If you're in an area that can utilize Tordon, you don't have a lot of trees around that are desirable, you don't have fish around, no problem. I'd use Tordon too.
Okay, when we do get out into crop ground, again, you know, the normal products probably aren't going to do it on a lot of these woody species, but if you can get a decent burn down, and tillage certainly is going to help on gumweed.
That's all the time we have for this week's Weed of the Week, curlycup gumweed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
Nodulation. It's essential for nitrogen fixation in soybeans, but how can you help it happen in your fields? Monsanto BioAg offers inoculants that answer that question. Microbial seed applied solutions that work to establish high populations of rhizobia in your fields, helping with optimum nodulation and increased performance in your soybeans. Learn how inoculants powered by nature can help you at monsantobioag.com/inoculate.
Grow your incentives, not weeds. Earn an additional $6 per acre in cash back when you apply XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology on your Roundup Ready 2 Xtend soybeans, along with endorsed herbicides from Roundup Ready Plus Crop Management Solutions. Now you have the right tools to manage weeds and your bottom line. Visit GrowYourIncentives.com to see your total incentives opportunity.
Let's take a look at our picks for the championship season. We've got 10-34-0.
No. I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about this Agro Liquid team. Take a look at this lineup. They got it all. The talent, Their players can meet any challenge on any field. The coaching staff, the best I've seen.
So that's your pick? No discussions?
Nope. Agro Liquid is the team. They're going all the way to the championship.
Our Morton is so much more to us than just a building. It's a place where we spend time with friends. It's a place where we hold family gatherings. It's become very important to us.
Morton Buildings. For work. For life. For generations. Contact us now during our annual sales event to save on your next building.
Smart farming is playing hockey with my son.
All right, sweetie, I'm excited to go. Yeah. Smart farming is going on more family vacations.
Smart farming is getting some much needed rest.
Smart farming is spending more time doing what you love. Make it happen with Farm Command.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Cation.
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seedbed in the industry and target a nickel-size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high-efficiency farming, there's one name to count on: Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
If you could prevent your first breakdown this spring before it even happens, you'd do it, right? In today's Iron Talk, we'll talk about what I believe is the most neglected piece of farm equipment each spring: your sprayer. If you think I'm exaggerating, then see if this fits what happened in your shop so far this off-season. You've spent your time getting the planter, tillage tools if necessary, and your tractor ready. You've probably even gone through the combine. But your sprayer, it often just sits there until the last possible minute. Now, I'm sure you winterized it last fall if you're in an area with freezing temperatures in the winter, and you cleaned it out well at the end of the season too. But that's a lot different than having the sprayer completely ready to go. So this year, a couple of weeks before you need the sprayer, or right away if your spray season is closer than that, start by putting a couple hundred gallons of water in your sprayer. Check for leaks in your hoses, ball valves, and everywhere else. Make sure that you didn't miss a spot with your antifreeze, like a low spot or a filter bowl. Then, if everything else is good, move on to your spray tips. Do your calibrations and catch tests to make sure that you're still putting out the right amount of product. And watch the spray pattern as well. If it's distorted, get some new tips. If your tips have been on for a few years, it's a good time to replace them now. Speaking of replacing old tips, there are some brand new upgraded tips out there that you've got to check out. The new 3D nozzles from Hypro are really fantastic for getting great coverage, and the new nozzles for dicamba applications, they're not optional, they're required. Your challenge today is to get the sprayer completely ready early if you still have time. Now, it may prevent your first breakdown of the year and make the spray season go smoother all throughout the season. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now, back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune into the Ag PhD radio show, where we take your live phone calls each weekday on SiriusXM Channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Soil is nature's filter to keep contaminants out of our water. To learn how farmers manage soil and groundwater, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.